Shadow Generations. This is the massive DLC to a fan favourite game which I only just completed the remaster for in December. I did a similar video for the main game which you should go watch here after you've completed this video, of course. In said video I stated I would never do another one like it unless that video hit 20,000 likes. And guess what? It didn't hit. But that goal was quite high, and considering that video is now the most popular one on my channel, the people have clearly spoken, so here's another one. And so I'll say it again, without further ado, let's rank each of the Shadow Generations stages by moving straight to the first zone, Space Colony Ark. While it may be a simple intro to the act, having Shadow grinding along a rail while looking around him and adjusting his gloves, the space setting is so cool. I really love it when they give levels an intro rather than just having the character fall from the heavens, so this act is off to a good start from the get-go. Starting Shadow Generations at the Ark makes perfect sense, like starting Sonic Generations at Green Hill Zone, as this is where Shadow's story begun. The level does a great job at showing what the DLC as a whole has to offer, while making you feel badass in the process. Having access to Shadow's abilities really helps set the DLC aside from the main game, and the way this act utilises his chaos control by making you able to jump on and avoid missiles is exactly what I'd expect out of such a power. I love how the mid-level cutscenes in this stage are so over the top. Like, there was no reason for Shadow to back to the living daylights out of that giant missile, other than for the aura farm. I'm not a fan of this door straight after this drop, as you have to wait a second or two for it to open, which is a nitpick, I know, but I'm trying to be the ultimate life form here. I don't have time to waste waiting for some stupid door. Anyway, getting to the distorted Radical Highway area is a little unsatisfying. While it's definitely trippy and otherworldly, it's kind of straightforward. And on a side note, this slide animation is not it. Overall, I love this act, and like Green Hill Zone, I think it's a good starting point to the game. The music is an absolute banger too, which makes you feel almost as cold as Shadow. With all this in mind, for now this act's gonna go an A tier, but this might change later. So you remember what I said about falling from the heavens? You know, how I said I didn't like that? Yeah, that's how Act 2 starts. I don't know why they didn't just start the level at this point and then have everything else in the level come after it, but oh well. To be honest though, I do really like this act, although playing it with Doom Wings is so much better than without, because these spinning green pillars are kind of annoying to use, and you can completely avoid them by flying over them. Also, if you use Chaos Control, I realised you literally cannot progress up these towers, which is mint. I didn't mention the Doom Wings for Act 1 because there aren't really any points I could think of, as you kind of just fly over the level, but in Act 2 there are dedicated paths marked out with rings and enemies to take. You're also introduced to Chaos Spears, which allow you to open these doors throughout the level. Luckily, these open pretty instantly, so I think they're a good addition. The music of this stage kind of reminds me of a Pokemon battle theme, which means I like it, I guess. And that's all I have to say about Space Colony Act 2. Even though I didn't have a whole lot to say, I'm sure there will be other acts I'll have even less to talk about. So this act can go a solid A tier again. What I love about grind rails. So Act 2 of this zone, I love for the same reasons which I love Act 1, which I suppose I'll get onto now. I really didn't know where either of these two acts fit onto my list, as I really liked the visuals, music, and transitions to and from Radical Highway. But the acts are just a bunch of grind rails at the end of the day, so I go on to say a lot, but at the same time, absolutely nothing. My gut instinct was for Act 1 to be an S tier, so I'll stick with that, despite it not giving me the absolute buzz that City Escape and the goat that is Rooftop Run provided me. And as for Act 2, it can go an A tier, mainly because I didn't like how these buttons are used in it. Anyway, moving on to Kingdom Valley Act 1. I absolutely love the overgrown castle setting of this level and the different modes of transport used to navigate through it. You can doom surf, hitch rides on eagles, and grind along wind. Despite being a linear stage like any Shadow Generations act, these transportation methods, combined with the wide setting and many alternate paths, make this level so open. The suspenseful, adventurous music, mixed with the stormy skies and smashing through windows, suits Shadow's character so well. Another thing that suits Shadow's character so well is the way he leaps off the waterfall and flips backwards into a headfirst dive. Nope, I'm not going to make the joke again, don't worry GameSpot. Anyways, using this guy to smash through a window after beating him up, followed by teleporting to him to finish the job, is actually disgusting behaviour I only thought possible in Birmingham. Speaking of Birmingham, did you know this beautiful Split River ending, which I love, is actually based off Birmingham? So maybe it is worth the visit, especially since I heard the knife crime is to die for this time. Okay, I kind of went off on one there, I apologise. So jokes aside, the end of this level is my favourite in the whole DLC. In fact, this whole level is my favourite in the whole DLC, which is why it's going in S tier. Unlike Act 1 of Kingdom Valley, Act 2 is obviously not going to be open because it's a 2D platforming stage. Instead, Act 2 has you navigating through these towers similar to the clock tower at the end of Rooftop Run Act 1 in the base game. I actually like this act for the opposite reason to the previous level, as instead of being incredibly open, it has you running through narrower corridors and the thin edges of the structures found through the valley. Narrowly escaping a ceiling on course to Pancake Shadow by smashing through a glass window yet again radiates his aura. The easiest way to describe this act is a more enjoyable version of Planet Wisp, as just like that stage, you start in a green scenery, then the main section of the level is in a factory, or this case a castle, then you leave with a short taste of greenery yet again, and a lack of wisps is also appreciated. Now for the ranking, this act can go in A tier. As much as I will attempt to defend Sonic Forces since it was the first game of the franchise I played start to finish, you'll never see me trying to defend the episode Shadow campaign, because I despised all 3 levels. That doesn't mean hope is lost for Sunset Heights in this game. I was always a fan of Sunset Heights just as a setting alone, even if the level linked to it in the Free Forces DLC was dogger. I also always loved the Death Egg robots in the background of Sunset Heights, but what's even better about them this time is they actually play a role in the stage by hurling rocks at Shadow and directly sending him to the undergrounds. While these tunnels are a slower part to the act, I think it works well, as everything up until now is pretty fast, and considering Shadow didn't actually mean to come down this way, it would make sense for it to be the slow route. The Radical Highway section is just as cool as ever, this time containing spiraling buildings and upside down grind rails. Upon leaving here, Shadow hits a sick trick to obviously progress his aura farm. You know, it's crazy to think the past 2 Act 1 stages have been S rank, but what's even crazier is now the past 3 Act 1s have been S rank, as that's where this is going. On top of that, coming back to this act made me realise how good it was, and I think this might be my favourite level in the DLC, which means sorry Kingdom Valley Act 1, you're now number 2. The start to Act 2 is so fast-paced once again, this time requiring a bit more skill and fast actions. It also throws a bunch of different opportunities to use multiple mechanics straight off the bat, like the Air Dash, Chaos Spears, and Doom Surf, which takes on a bigger role later on in the act. The Death Egg robots are still a hazard instead of a background, this time blasting the platforms beneath you. I am rather partial to a good alternate route, and this act has a similar setup to Seaside Hill Zone Act 1, where you can move between the foreground and background of this section via water pushing you forward, or taking a loop that moves you back. You then take a fun water slide out of this indoor section where the camera kindly moves around and over the shoulder of Shadow, giving you a dynamic action shot. The level ends shortly after this, leaving a bittersweet taste in your mouth now that Sunset Heights is over. Crazily enough, this act has to go in S tier again. This ranking makes it the only platforming based level in the tier. I did go back to Sonic Generations to make sure it deserved the honour, and came back to the conclusion that it definitely does. I also retried Seaside Hill due to the similarities I made between that level and this comment, but I'm sorry, I just don't like the act. On another side note, I'd love in the future to get another version of the town minus all the destruction. Sonic Frontiers is my favourite Sonic game, mainly because I'm a sucker for the open world genre thanks to Insomniac's Spider-Man, and because I just haven't played all that many Sonic games, but I am just now realising that Sonic Forces wasn't the first Sonic game I played start to finish, it was actually Sonic Boom. I won't count that because I was pretty young and it doesn't really compare to other Sonic games because the gameplay style is just so different. But anyway, I got a little sidetracked again. Where were we? Chaos Island, of course. No, not that game. I was really looking forward to this act, seeing as I love all of the islands in Frontiers, despite them feeling more and more rushed as the game went on. First of all, this ring at the start of the act took me so damn long to get a clip of, it's unreal. Not that missing it matters too much, I just found it weirdly difficult. The music to this stage is once again adventurous, but this time with a mysterious feeling to it and these funky sounds. The volcano background mixed with the futuristic ancient ruins works really well, and I could definitely imagine this being an area Shadow goes to in the future. There are many paths you can take in the Act 2, which I love, seeing as this game is based off an open world, like I've kind of already said, I guess. Even the slowest parts of this act it's possible to blast through without much struggle. I was so hyped to see this zone in the game, but nervous at the same time, since the area it's based off isn't linear like this. But the act does Chaos Island justice by showing off the key areas based on the island thing, by showing off notable locations like the destroyed Death Egg robot at the beginning, then progressing through temples to end at the volcano, which is teased with this eruption. I think I slightly overhyped this act, which caused me to not enjoy it as much as I could have, and is also why this stage is going in A tier, but definitely the higher end of A tier. Chos Island Act 2 opens up having Shadow dodging these volcanic ball traps. It then has you use the Doom Morph ability yet again, which later becomes the main focus of the act. This short Donkey Kong air trap is straight fire. Or lava, because, you know, volcano and that. The amount you use Doom Morph in this stage really sets it apart from the other acts, and these tunnels used throughout the level makes the usually relatively slow ability just a tad faster. I don't know who at Sega felt the need to have these platforms make a comeback, and whoever keeps making the decision, you better hope it's not on Chos Island, because I'm going to put you on one of these platforms and lower you into the volcano as slowly as possible, to make you feel just like Shadow the Snail Hog. In-game. After a loop, a skippable platform, and this runway that takes the controls away from you for some reason, the level is over, ranking in an A tier yet again, but also yet again in the higher end of A tier. Radical Highway, Radical Highway. Yeah, it's pretty rad. Banger music, a good challenge without Doom Wings, and built up to the entire game. Everything a final level should be. As soon as the act begins with this cool intro of Shadow grinding down a bridge, you'll notice that you are locked out of using his Chaos Control ability, something that's been with you the whole game. This already sets it aside from any other act. Chaos Spears, or Doom Spears I guess, are used in multiple ways in this level, such as spawning platforms, stunning enemies, and avoiding these red barriers. Although these ways are all used in other levels, I think putting more of a highlight on the ability is well done in this act since you are one short. The implementation of these bars that you can swing on is a welcome addition to the course, and the sliding section is cool, but going back to what I said at the start of the video, I don't know what it is, but something about the slide animation, I don't like it. I almost forgot about this short cutscene that forces you into Doom Wings even if you don't have enough rings, followed by marked out paths in the air turns Speed Highway from pretty closed off to the most open act in the game. You could call it Speed Flyway. Why am I the way I am? The act wraps up with familiar bridges like the one from the start, followed by a corkscrew. It took me a shamefully long time to S-rank this course, but considering it's the second last in the game, I don't mind that. Speaking of S-rank though, replaying this act and locking the f*** in has made me come to like it way more than I previously did, where it would have probably ended up in B tier. But unfortunately for Kingdom Valley Act 1, there's a new number 2 favourite act in S tier. Now for Act 2 of Radical Highway. Once again, it's got the same 3 things I said that Act 1 had that I liked, and a setting which goes hard that I forgot to mention before. One of those 3 things definitely stands out in this level though, as S rank is so hard to get. This is exactly what a final challenge to a game should be, and I hate it for it. The highway is a lot more distorted in Act 2. Seeing as you are just about as close as possible to Black Doom, it makes sense. These 2 mini-boss type enemies hella slow down the act. And even after getting used to them, they still kinda irritated me. I was pretty confused when I played Speed Highway Act 2, because the rest of Shadow Generations had already established that Act 2s were the platforming act, whereas this is the only exception being a 3D stage. All of the gimmicks from other zones get fused together to form Act 2, almost like those cutaways from the previous levels were for practice. The simplest way to describe my opinion on this level is I love the way I hate it, if that makes sense. The only place this act belongs is the fiery pits of hell, but like the luxury suite. Since that's not a tier on my list, it's going in the lowest part of S tier. And I'm also moving Rail Canyon to the highest point in A tier because I just don't think it fits in S tier with the other acts now. And that's the video. Wait. God damn it, they DLC'd the DLC. Well, an extra act in Tokyo shouldn't take too long. Opening cutscene, check. Mid-stage cutscene, check. End cutscene, check. Yeah, that's pretty sick if you ask me. Along with the cutscenes taking the extra act to another level, they made a whole new model for Shadow based on the movie, which kinda looks goofy at times but is accurately edgy overall. They got the guy from the SpongeBob movie voice acting Shadow too, who also voices the imposter hedgehog in the movie. The stage as a whole is mind-bogglingly stunning, and for the most part incredibly enjoyable and fast-paced. The only problem I have with this act is how long it takes to grind up this tower at the end of the act. It's just a case of Shadow the Snail Hog all over again. They even added unique animations for different rankings too, as another detail. I can't even say I'm biased by putting this act in S tier after how good the Sonic 3 movie was, as this would be an amazing act just on its own. And now that's the end of the video. If you couldn't tell, at some points I got kind of bored while scripting and editing. So, for example, I went off on Birmingham for some reason. But if making a second part to this tier list has taught me anything, never, ever used Share Factory to make this type of video. Thank God I made the swap to CapCut this time. It literally took me a quarter of the time to make this one. Anyways, as I said last time, if you disagree with or if you second my opinion and want to expand on why, leave a comment down below. After making this list, I will confidently say I will never make another one. Unless this video hits 20,000